Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Graham Chapman. Graham, this book of yours, it's called A Liar's Autobiography. Volume 7, international bestseller, even though it's not yet published, or today it's published, or tomorrow. Now, it seems to me that there's a smoke screen that you've deliberately placed over your early life. Yes. Would I be right in assuming that?
Yes, I think that'll probably be Volume 8.
Volume 8 will reveal all. Well, can I just put some of the confusing things to you, just to find out the truth, to establish your credentials, as they say?
Right.
The book quotes, born in Leamington, or rather in Stalbridge, Dorset.
Leicester.
You're in Leicester, all right, fine. His parents, Tim and Beryl, actually, Walter, Edith and Mark, were outraged...
Yes, that's just Walter and Edith.
Walter and Edith, sorry.
Mark was out.
Mark was out at the time. They were outraged because they had expected a black heterosexual Jew.
I think they got that one right.
Did they?
No, there must be some mistake there, obviously, as well.
Right. It was certainly true, of course, that you, in fact, as I said in the introduction, that you became a doctor.
Yes.
Why?
I think because it seemed the simplest course for me at the time. Writing essays and doing anything artistic in school, for me, called for a little more effort. Whereas anything to do with science meant I had to learn things, and I was reasonably good at learning things. I didn't have to create anything. So it seemed simpler to do that. I was a little afraid of creating things, I think, in a sense.
Really? It's curious that when you think about what you've created since.
That's what I really wanted to do, and that's what I finished up doing, I suppose.
Was there, in fact, did you find medicine, did you find it a good training ground for a humorist?
Yes, I think it's a good training ground for anything, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, because you meet all sorts of people, naturally, in very strange predicaments. And you do strange things to them sometimes. Oh, it's great fun.
What was the strangest predicament you ever saw a human being in, then?
You mean,
as a doctor?
Yes. Well, it's rather embarrassing.
Is it?
Really, yes.
Do you think it's not fit topic for...
The one I immediately thought of was, anyway,
well,
so better think of another one. Yes. Let's think of another one. Well, actually, concerns, it's mentioned in the book, it was really not a patient that was the bother. It was that myself and my registrar, I was doing a locum at the time for ear, nose and throat, had been to the rugby club dinner the night before. And so we were a little hungover, he more than I. And if you put a mirror to the back of someone's throat and you actually touch the back of the throat, sometimes the patient goes like that. And he was doing this, looking down the patient's throat. The patient went, and he went, what could we do? Poor patient.
How were you therefore, given this background, how were you therefore first attracted to showbiz?
I think really it was the early radio shows. I was an avid listener to radio shows like Take It From Here. Before that, Jewel and Morris, Hancock, all sorts of radio shows. And then later, when I was about 13, 14, The Goon Show. Of course, here came a show which was not like any of the other shows. It didn't have the same kind of rules. It didn't have any rules. It didn't even like the medium that was putting it out, particularly. It didn't like the BBC. Wonderful. There was something that I could relate to, and did. And I suppose that's influenced us.
And Python, you would see Python as a direct descendant, then, of what Michael and others started?
Well, actually, Harry Seacombe was kind enough once to say that we did for television what the Goons had done for radio. Maybe we did, I don't know.
Yes. What are the problems involved, though, in working? I mean, the success of a team like the Goons or Monty Python depends upon every talent being separate and therefore individualistic. What is the problem involved in keeping a relationship, a working relationship, among such strong-minded people?
I think one of the most important things, really, is that we should all feel at all times that we should do other things. In fact, we always have. I mean, I've always written separately from Python. Situation comedies, for instance, for Ronnie Corbett, the Doctors that you were talking about earlier, the Doctor script. And all of us have something else which is a separate part of our lives, which keeps our own identity satisfied, as it were, so that we don't just submerge to the group.
And stops you hitting each other and things like that, because there must be a problem.
Mostly, yeah. Yes. Which problem were you talking about?
About hitting each other.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Michael? Did you find this, that you had to break away to create an identity for yourself?
No, I'd actually started in the West End of London with the chair back and the sink pump. Before I
Yes,
did the Goon
right.
Show, I joined the boys because we were all ex-servicemen. That was really the link. I got one of those terribly worthy researchers came up the other day and said, "Could you tell me, I'm writing an analysis Goon Show." So the man has no sense of humor at all if you write an analysis of the Goon Show. And he said, I would like to know the single most significant social factor that gave that tremendous drive to expose some of the evils of the iconoclastic society. I said, yes, very simple, we were all pissed.
Going back to what you were saying there, raised an interesting point with you, Graham, in your career too, about being drunk and this sort of thing, because you, in fact, were more than drunk on one occasion. You were, in fact, an alcoholic, were you?
Yes, I did a lot of drinking, a great deal, a very great deal indeed, Michael, yes.
You were an alcoholic?
Safely say, yes. I did do a very great deal.
Yeah, why was that, do you think?
I think, well, I don't know, really, the answer to that. Deep inside, I think, actually, that I was insecure. I didn't really feel that I'd deserved the success that I'd achieved, as it were. I think that was it. Who was laughing at that?
Yes.
Strange reaction. I'll come and sort you out later on.
That's right.
Anyway, I think that was the reason. Some sort of insecurity. After all, I was the one of the group that hadn't... I was a grammar school boy, you know. I wasn't public school. I managed to get to Cambridge. Then I felt a little bit out of my depth there, perhaps. I don't know. But I always seemed to get there. Never seemed to have to do a great deal of work. And yet managed. I felt it was insecure. So I drank.
And how much at your peak, so to speak, how much were you drinking?
4 pints of gin a day.
Oh.
4 pints of gin a day?
Yes, that was only during the last month and a half or so.
That's almost a sort of terminal dose, isn't it, I would think?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
What pulled you back from it and made you stop drinking? Because you've been drying out.
Well, I noticed, actually, that it was beginning to affect my work, because... on the...
You mean when you remember it, it was a...
when I could run my work, even. Yeah, the very first day of filming of the Holy Grail. In fact, we were halfway up a mountainside in Glencoe, and I hadn't got my daily dose. And it was 7 o'clock in the morning that we left the hotel. The bar wasn't open. I hadn't realized this, hadn't gotten anything prepared the night before, as I should have if I'd researched my drinking properly. And so I had DTs on the mountainside, while having to try and remember lines and stand up, you know. It was then that I decided next time that I do a job like this, I'm going to be clean for it. It's not fair to the other chaps in the group, it's not fair to me, it's not fair to what I've written, it's very stupid. And so when I next had a patch of time in which I thought I would need to recover, I took that patch of time and recovered after, well, I suppose really 3 days of hell.
Yes, I was going to say, how difficult was it?
Actually, once the decision had been made, once I decided to stop, it was easy, except for the 3 days of unpleasantness, of, well, having things crawling all over me and...
Literally, I mean...
hallucinating and that sort of thing. Very unpleasant.
Can you remember what you were hallucinating about? Can you...
Well, one of the worst things, strangely enough, was not being able to remember whether I'd slept or not, whether I was dreaming or whether I was awake. I didn't know. It was disorientating completely. I didn't know whether I was, you know, whether I'd slept for 6 hours or whether I'd been awake dreaming. I didn't know where I was. Objects seemed to threaten me as well. An angle poison lamp. I remember by the bedside, you know, I would be just lying there. And, yeah. Seems that it's rather like W.C. Fields was always acting that part. I was doing it for real. For a short time. Then after that, a week in hospital, just cooling off on Valium, and I've been fine ever since.
You, in fact, of course, too, you were very great friends, and you write about him lovingly, actually, in the book with Keith Moon,
Yeah.
who killed himself, of course, through drink.
Well, that's right. I was, during the last year of Keith's life, he was attempting to dry out quite a lot. I was drying out with him. We were, in fact, involved in a mutual project. And I saw him dry out. In fact, I went to his hospital bedside, and on a couple of occasions, just after he'd had a little epileptiform, I suppose, epileptic fit of some description, and following withdrawal of alcohol. And I'm going to have to do that someday. I'm going to have to. But the tragic thing was seeing Keith go back to drinking. You see, he didn't really, actually, had never really decided to quit, to stop. And it has to come from you, I think.
Yes. You have to
It's
want
your
to.
decision. Either you're going to live or not.